Hello once again, I'm Cosmic, and on this episode of Early Access Examination we're going to be taking a look at Nekro, which has a blend of action, strategy and RPG elements. In development by Darkforge Games, Nekro was initially kickstarted back in 2012 and hit Early Access in 2014. In Nekro, you take the role of a recently made necromancer in the service of a dark god. Your sole purpose is to go through the lands creating foul creatures and destroying all those in your path. The game is infused with a quirky sense of humour throughout. In fact, the game reminds me of a cross between Dungeon Keeper and Overlord for those who played them. At the start of the game, you'll be able to choose what type of necromancer you wish to play as. There are currently 3 choices, all with different styles of play. The first is the alchemist that focuses on healing and summons. The second is the Grim Keeper, who is a ranged attacker, and the third is the outcast, who is a melee fighter. There is also going to be a fourth upon full release, but that hasn't been announced yet. After deciding which Nekro you wish to play, you then have the choice of a Scourge power, which is an attack ability that can have varying effects depending on your choice. The game's controls are easy to pick up and are straightforward. You move your character with the WASD keys. Your basic attack, which is different for each Nekro, is used via the left mouse button, and the Q and E keys are used for class specific abilities. You then have the hotbar, where you use your Scourge attacks and all your unlocked summons will be located, which can all be activated with the number keys. Your character has both health and blood bar, and both are replenished by devouring corpses. Killing enemies with summons or basic attacks will cause a corpse to be left behind. However, killing an enemy with a Scourge attack will leave nothing behind but entrails. During the combat, the spacebar key will allow you to dash out of harm's way, but it does have a short cooldown and does not cover a large distance, so if you end up backed into a corner, expect to die. Summoning creatures is the key to winning battles. Similar to Overlord, there's strength in numbers. Each summon has different roles, strengths and weaknesses. All summons require a specific amount of blood to be used. Most summons do need a corpse to be sacrificed on top of the blood requirement to be able to bring them forth. However, usually the higher blood requirement ones will only require blood to be used. As you progress, you'll be able to unlock more summons who are more powerful at a specific role, like the Crust King, who can be used as a large tank. You're also able to use your Scourge attack to reanimate your fallen summons, as well as some that you happen across along the way. In many of the levels, there will be neutral monsters that will attack both you and the enemy. These monsters are a good source of blood and health, but more fun is using your Scourge attack on their huts or spawn points to hire a number of them into your horde. These creatures can be vital in tougher levels and can provide much needed boost to both attack damage and numbers. The enemy variety in the game is very good. There are some tough old codgers out there. The further into the story you get, more and more unique enemies come into the fray, each with their own mechanics and unique tactics. The enemies are really what make the game for me currently. They provide all the challenge. You'll start off with farmers at the beginning of the game, and as your conquest expands, you'll meet witchers, bounty hunters, soldiers, templars and more. The tougher the enemy, the more blood and health their corpse will be worth, which is handy considering they will most likely kill many of your summons. The combat thus far is fun, challenging and often messy. While you can give commands to your summons and tell them which target to attack, you don't have direct control over them in terms of movement. It can lead to having to make several attempts to take down a tough group of enemies, as if your summons huddle up in a group, they will be torn to shreds. I would have liked clearer battle lines with more unit collision, as it's difficult to aim, especially when you're a ranged Nekro, and when your summons surround the target, it's difficult to get your attack through. Boss battles and special enemies can also be found in the game, such as Mayor Biscuit, that is a character based on Total Biscuit. After completing a mission, you'll be taken to the character progression screen, where you'll be able to equip your Necromancer and upgrade his abilities. The first tab that you see is where you can purchase stat upgrades and new skills with the power that you gain in levels. You can also equip trinkets, which are items found from fallen foes that have all kinds of effects such as random summons, increased damage, AoE effects and more. After this, you'll head to the Summons tab. From here, you can see all the summons that you're currently available to you and those that you can unlock via the Sins currency that drops from enemies. Each summon has 2 combat roles that can be switched in and out before a battle. For example, the Skelly Bones can either function as a melee fighter or as an archer. You are also able to upgrade summons using Sins to increase their stats, abilities and unit capacity, allowing you to field more of them in battle. I really like the amount of customization that you have with both your chosen necromancer and the various summons available to you. It's fun to try different combinations of summons to see which group is more effective in various situations. The progression is curved well, even in this early access build, so that no matter how strong you and your summons get, each of the following levels is still challenging. Nekro's level design is fairly simplistic. Each level varies in its environment, but they all remain fairly small maps that can easily be navigated with the minimap. Each different level has a variety of objects that can be interacted with, such as a pumpkin that you can make come to life with an attack, traps, livestock to eat, and there's all kinds of things. There's also environmental hazards, such as toxic barrels and oil spills that can be used against both you and your enemies. As the combat arenas go, Nekro's levels are simplistic and I would have liked more interesting level mechanics, but they do work well and are as aesthetically diverse as they are pleasing. Nekro's story and setting is packed full of Dungeon Keeper style humour. The narration of the character's journal between missions is often at its best hysterical, and at its worst it brings a cheap smile. It's a game that does not take itself too seriously and enjoys throwing its humour into both its story, art and level design. What story there is so far is well written, with plenty of comedy, self-deprecation and satire. The game's art style is dark but vibrant and it looks really good. The comical cartoon styling of the characters not only looks great, but it adds humour to the game. The spell effects and the lighting in the game all add to the chosen aesthetic, but it's the sound of the game that stands out most of all. The narrator and the voice acting is very good, humorous and entertaining. Nekro's soundtrack is filled with blood-boiling heavy metal, with guitars and drums rocking away as you summon your undead masses. It's a great soundtrack that's fun to listen to as you desolate the lands in front of you. As early access games go, Nekro has plenty of content and quality for your money already. It's one of the few early access games that's worth a purchase, and the game's stability is great, with me encountering next to no bugs thus far. Similar in quality to games like Darkest Dungeon, I only wish that these types of early access games were the norm and standard in terms of quality and content. It's a great game that should appeal to many players. I personally would have liked more in-depth story, as I think the game would have benefited from a questing system with a world map with multiple locations and almost like you can go kind of anywhere you wished and visit different places, but as I say, that's not the full release yet. Overall, if you're interested in Nekro, there's certainly monetary value in the current early access version. There's also plenty more content to come in the final release, as well as new summons and gameplay features too. And that's Nekro Early Access Examination. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Do like, subscribe and leave a comment. If you've played it, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.